And somebody said, well, what would you do? What can you do? So easy. I drop a 25% tax on China. And I said to somebody that it's really the messenger. The messenger is important. I could have one man say, we're going to tax you 25%. And I could say another, listen, you motherfuckers, we're going to tax you 25%.
The name of the game here is behavior modification. He wants Canada and Mexico to help stem the flow of drugs and people across the border. That's number one. He doesn't think they're doing enough. He's using these tariffs as a tool to say, look, I'm not fooling around. We mean business. Until you help me, I'm going to inflict some pain upon you. The American economy is bigger than yours. You depend on us more than we depend on you. Therefore, please modify your behavior. And I'm sure conversations are going on with both countries about what it would look like to secure their borders and to stop the flow of people and drugs across the border. And if Donald Trump could tell us that that was happening, I think that would be a great outcome. Regarding other countries and regarding our position vis-a-vis other countries, Karen, I want to directly address that. You have to give Trump a little credit so far. He has had some success with this behavior modification strategy so far. It worked on Colombia. And if you look at the news reports from the weekend, it might be working on Panama, as they have started to move away from China a little bit over this issue of who actually controls the Panama Canal. So one of the larger macro issues here to me is Donald Trump on a mission to show dominance in the hemisphere, dominance in the region, and to try to get other people to bend to our will? Colombia and Panama, I believe, have. If Mexico and Canada bend on helping us stop the flow of people and drugs, that would be another victory. And John, yes, if the tariffs went away, everyone would be happy. We'd have less immigration, less drugs, and lower prices, and that'd be a great day for everybody. Finish on Canada, by the way, because he did get new things on Canada, which I'm sure you know. And I'm just going to read you Justin Trudeau's own statement. Canada is making new, and if I'll define it for you, that means not previously existing, commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar, list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a joint task force to make money laundering and organized crime.
Richard, I'm going to let you in here. But
This is all new. It's all new.
Hold on.
So I forgot to evaluate Donald Trump's handling of foreign policy. As you saw from the intros, I gave you some CNN clips. And then I started off the intro with Donald Trump from 2012. This man's consistent. For 13 years, he's been saying, yo, politicians, all you have to do is, hey, I'll tariff your butt if you don't do as I say. And no politician has done it, as from my recollection. Then Trump gets in office, everyone's crying. I gotta give Trump's consistent if I give him that. So they were able to reach an agreement to avoid the trade wars. You saw in the intro, the liberals on the CNN panel were kind of mocking, a fentanyl czar, condescending liberal. I'm telling you, right? And then I get Democrats like to attack me in my comment section, talking about how prejudiced I am when I'm literally pointing out behaviors that are usually from liberals that they do that annoy me. Like I can't stand condescending people. And I notice a lot of liberal women, sorry, liberal women, a lot of y'all are very condescending. You come across very condescending, right? And especially with this trade war, a survey says that nearly half of Canadian businesses plan to move production to the U.S. in response to Trump's tariffs. So even, in the short term, this is what I was talking about. In the short term, we may suffer, but end of the day, if what we gain is a lot more leverage, if it sets us up for a better position in the future, I have no problem with the tariffs, because end of the day, national security matters a little bit more than inflation. I'm just saying. Rubio strikes an extraordinary migrant agreement anywhere in the world with El Salvador, while El Salvador is open to use their mega prisons, because they have mega prisons there, to take in violent illegals regardless of their nationality, even if they're American citizens. If they're violent American citizens, he's even willing to take them in. And this is a shift, like 4 times in a row, right? We calling it, that people are calling it the Trump cycle. Trump wants a foreign leader to do something. Trump announces tariffs. Left claims tariffs won't work this time. Leaders cave and Trump gets what he wants. Repeat the cycle again, right? Because we've been hearing a lot from the left. The left's been desperate. They desperately want these leaders to stand up to Donald Trump. But as I pointed out in my earlier tariff video, A lot of these leaders are reliant on the foreign policy and the foreign money of the United States of America.
USAID has the unique distinction of being both a deep state agency involved in covert actions aimed at destabilizing foreign governments and one of the main U.S. government agencies that comprise the foreign policy establishment. The pursuit of globalism and foreign intervention has proved not only to be costly and distracting, but has also fueled abuses of power against American citizens. Since this first election in 2016, it has become even more evident that blowback from U.S. foreign policy would disrupt harmony at home. To combat alleged misinformation, the censorship industrial complex used counterterrorism and intelligence tactics developed abroad, including psychological operations, and repurposed them to shape domestic opinion and thought. This repurposing of national security tools was a key feature of the weaponization of government against Trump, his supporters, and other dissidents. As part of U.S. government efforts to overthrow governments abroad or simply influence what they do, USAID has in recent years been funding censorship advocacy worldwide through its Countering Disinformation program, which is part of its Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening. This work has included funding for so-called fact-checking organizations, including in Brazil, which governments use as a predicate for demanding censorship by social media companies. The links between USAID regime change work abroad and anti-Trump work in the United States may go deeper than people realize. Before working at the Department of Homeland Security, Nina Jankowicz worked on democracy assistance programs for NDI, the USAID-funded program in Eastern Europe. And as we discovered through the Twitter files, Jankowicz was involved in an effort by a CIA venture capital fund-backed effort to seize control of Twitter's content moderation. And why are progressive Democrats outraged? Well, in part because USAID funded many of them, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Trump and Musk can likely expect significant congressional blowback this week due to their abrupt halting of USAID funding, the firing of its leaders, and the shutting down of its website and X accounts.
Isn't it interesting how progressives and Democrats are feeling so entitled to the people's money? Because that's what taxes are. The taxes are the people's money. And they just want to be in these positions. This is why they want the government to control everything, because it makes it easier to control all the resources. If they know, hey, if I work at this administrative state, I can manage the people's money, and it doesn't matter if I don't have any money. I can just choose where the flow of the money goes, and it happens to flow into the pockets of all these progressive nonprofits, right? Gavin Newsom spending $20 billion to nonprofits to end homelessness, but all they effectively did was manage homelessness. Because end of the day, the incentive you're putting out there is, hey, I'm paying you because of this problem. If the problem doesn't exist, you lose the funding, you lose your money, you lose your livelihood. So what incentives are you saying? I want to manage the problem. Homelessness, let's try to increase it or decrease it. Homelessness increased after Gavin Newsom spent $20 billion over 5 years to end it. Make it make sense. But these are progressives going to claim, oh, it's because these corrupt nonprofits. But you're creating an incentive structure where corrupt nonprofits want to get the money. How do you know if a nonprofit is good until you actually give it the money? And this is the problem many people are saying. The government's money shouldn't be used for these pet projects. And that's a different distinction that is different from the Democrats versus the conservative Republicans. The Republicans know it's not their money. Leftists have been accused of slush funds throughout the tenure since Obama, when Eric Holders were fining companies, right? And this is the funny part about progressives. They never want to look at the motives of why their politicians do certain things. For instance, Elizabeth Warren. During the Obama years, people love her. Oh, she was attacking these big banks. She was doing all this stuff. But did you know, if you knew, Eric Holder was using these fines that these banks and these businesses, these corporate businesses were getting hit with to fund left-wing organizations as part of a settlement agreement. Funneling money from fines to finance progressive groups. Because at the time, Obama had, the Republicans had the House under Obama. So Obama couldn't control the purse. So he decided, let me create my own purse by fining companies, creating more regulations so I could find companies so that way I could funnel the money to these left-wing groups. And Trump put an end to that. The same way Trump's putting an end to this stuff. And the more outraged the Democrats show, the more it vindicates my thoughts about how foreign aid is nothing more than a money laundering scheme. But I digress. Let's hear what Marco Rubio's thoughts about U.S. foreign policy and the taxpayers' money.
You talk about the United States being a strong partner. China, of course, is doing aid projects around the world. When you have these drastic changes, what does it do to American soft power? Is there a question about the U.S. using leverage, perhaps because some of these programs are there? And also, you mentioned there are, of course, legalities involved in sending prisoners overseas. Could you explain that? Obviously, there's the Constitution. What type of human rights protections would prisoners have if they're being sent overseas? Is that a question that you raised with President Bukele? And Mr. President, you're of course a development expert. How do you feel about the cuts in U.S. assistance or the changes in U.S. assistance, and how will this change worldwide and change with the competition with China? Thank you.
Well, let me just answer the first question. The second question is, again, President Bukele made an offer. We communicated it to the public. He communicated it to the public. We'll have to study it and see how something like that could even be applied. On the first question about aid, no one's talking. This is a 90-day freeze through which it allows us now to review programs. You know, before we did the freeze, we couldn't find out anything about some of these programs. And USAID in particular, they refused to tell us anything. We won't tell you what the money's going to, where the money's for, who has it.
Imagine being elected and unelected people are telling you you can't have access to the information. Like, if I was to put a hierarchy, who should be able to determine who should have more sway over what happens in the government? It should be people who are directly accountable to the American people. If an elected official tells an unelected official to do something, the unelected official should do it, because the will of the people effectively is behind that representative. I don't care if it's a Democrat politician or a Republican politician. If who's a Democratic politician I don't like? If Hakeem Jeffries sat there and asked, "Hey, I need information on this," I'm like, "I better be giving him that information." I don't care if he used it for political ends. I better give him that information, because at the end of the day, the people can hold Hakeem Jeffries accountable, regardless of how hard it is to actually hold him accountable in a deep blue state. But it's possible. An unelected official, you don't even know their name. We don't even know some of these people's names. And they're trying to withhold information from elected officials? Huh? That should not be the case in a government.
Which contractor? It's been, you know, in some cases it goes through 4 different contractors before it reaches the intended recipient. These are not my numbers. These are USAID's number. In some cases with USAID, 10, 12, 13%, maybe less of the money was actually reaching the recipient, and the rest was going into the overhead and the bureaucracy. This isn't my money. This is taxpayer money. So we're not going to eliminate foreign aid. We're going to have foreign aid that makes sense. We're going to have foreign aid that works. We're going to have foreign aid that furthers the national interest. We're going to have foreign aid that benefits our trusted partners and our allies. I am here today, we've issued a waiver today, because in Costa Rica we have a trusted partner and an ally who has proven that they have taken aid from the United States and used it to fix a problem, to help us, to do it in a way that actually helps the United States. They're stopping drugs. They're stopping criminals. They're identifying terrorists. This is foreign aid that furthers the national interest. Other programs we have questions about. And
like DI in Poland or some ish like that. Sending condoms to Gaza. Oh, speaking of Gaza, I gotta give my thoughts on that too. But let's Marco Rubio wrap up.
But we've also issued waivers because we don't want anybody see anybody die or anybody be harmed in the short term. But we're going to conduct a review, and we are going to have foreign aid in this country that is going to further the national interest of the United States. If it doesn't make us stronger or more prosperous or more secure, we aren't going to spend taxpayer money on it. We owe that to the people of our country.
How you vote against that? How you vote against American? This is America first, essentially. Take the interests of your people first. When I make a purchase, when I make a decision, I take the interests of my family first. Everyone call me a good husband for doing that. A politician saying that, all of a sudden he's bad? This is the proposition of the Democratic Party? Really? Trump winning the foreign policies front. Now, I gotta cover a piece. Maybe I'm not gonna spend too much time on this one before I wrap up. Donald Trump declares that the U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip. So he's going to send U.S. soldiers to essentially take over the Gaza Strip. During a press conference in the East Room with Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu, President Donald Trump said that the United States will take over the Gaza Strip. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip and will do a job with it too. Trump said, we'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site. I have mixed feelings about this. I want to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt, but off the rip, I disagree with this. I don't think the U.S. should be taking over the Gaza Strip. I feel like, this is like some pro quo under the background between him and Netanyahu. Hey, end of the day, it's unrealistic for me as an individual to think that someone's going to do 100% of what I agree with. I voted for Trump with the expectation or with the idea that, yes, he's more pro-Israel, so he's going to do things that's in the interest of Israel. Hey, I'll take it. It was worth the trade-off. Because Trump's doing it in a way where it benefits the United States. Hey, look, we're going to take over Gaza, so you have no excuse to come here and flatten Gaza. I'm messing around. He added, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited number of jobs and housing for the people of the area. It sounds compassionate, right? But like I said, you always got to put the motives in there. Who does this benefit? Like, are you clearing the way so Israel can take over, right? Or are you going to create an economic zone, which, you're going to, who's going to govern that government during that transition period? Because right now I think Hamas is the government technically in that area. So who's going to manage them during the meantime? Is it going to be Israel? Is it going to be the USA? It sounds like he's saying the USA, but some people feel like it's going to be Israel, right? So some people can interpret this as, like you're helping Israel's political ends. But we don't know the agreement, obviously. But I don't agree with that, right? Anything dealing with foreign policy, I'm like, less is more with me. But this is possibly a concession he made with somebody, one of his Jewish donors. I'm just saying, don't get mad at me. I'm highlighting I have to be fair here. If I can accuse Democrats of being funded by Big Pharma, and that is a conflict of interest, I have to point out some of Trump's conflict of interest as well. That's what makes me like an independent. I'm not really a full-on Republican, but I think the risk is worth it with Donald Trump. And I mean, he wanted to move the embassy to Jerusalem. So, like, end of the day, like, I'm not surprised by some of Trump's actions when it comes to Israel. Okay. Now, if we get some benefit out of it, maybe it's just like the Panama Canal. If the United States do to Gaza what they did to the Panama Canal, I'm all for it. But I can see how easily it could just be, okay, we cleared the way for you, Israel, you're going to be managing this right now, and then we like influence from afar. I think a lot of bad things can happen between there and that. Oh, who knows? Right? But I know people on the left is going to complain. I already see it. They're going to complain like hell. They're going to be like, oh my God, Trump is helping Israel colonize them. But end of the day, Trump's whole thing is, let's stop the war. For over the past 16 months, Israel has endured a sustained, aggressive, murderous assault on every front, but they fought back bravely. He just want peace. And if putting U.S. soldiers in Gaza accomplishes that, we'll see the outcome of that. But from the onset, without anything being done based on the proposition, I don't agree with it. I just think I'm tired of being the world's police. Let these people figure out their own problems. And I'm concerned that the Palestinians are not going to take well to U.S. soldiers being on the ground. I don't want to put U.S. soldiers at risk, and then it's causing another conflict. And that's where I'm more hesitant on. But whatever. I voted for the guy. I'll trust his judgment on this one. But let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I'll be interested to hear how you're judging Donald Trump's foreign policy, how he's handling things with the government internally. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys watching the end of the video. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Share the video if you feel so inclined. And I'll see you. Peace.